In my last devlog, I took you through the early stages of developing my new tower defense game. At that point, the game was still quite basic, featuring a simple minigun model and just one type of enemy. It was a starting point, but there was plenty of room for improvement and expansion. I've made a good amount of progress since then, and I'm excited to show you. So, the first thing I did was upgrade this minigun model because it looked extremely boring. I teased this minigun model in my last video, so now all I had to do was rig it and animate it, and then bring the new model into Unity to replace the old one. This proved to be quite challenging because, as you can see here, I have literally zero animating skills, so I struggled making a realistic firing animation in Blender. However, after a few hours of animating, coding, and crying, I was able to create this. Now, I know it looks pretty weird, but considering I had absolutely no idea what I was doing half the time, I'm actually pretty happy with how it turned out. Now, a minigun tower is cool and all, but that's not going to be the starter tower of the game. So I had to model another guy in Blender to be the most basic unit. I started with this gun, it's nothing special, just a pistol, and then I moved on to the actual guy, which was, again, nothing special, literally just a recolored zombie. I animated him, which was a bit easier this time, and brought him into Unity. This is what he looks like. I think I'm going to call this little guy the Recruit. He does 2 damage every 2 seconds, unlike the minigunner that does 1 damage every 0.1 seconds. However, the minigunner is significantly more expensive than the Recruit. Speaking of which, I added in this cash system, so the player spawns in with 600 starting cash, and for each damage dealt, they get $1. Additionally, at the end of each wave there's a wave bonus, which is whatever wave they're on multiplied by 125. So at the end of wave 1, the player gets an additional $125. At the end of wave 2, they get $250, etc. I also went ahead and added in this health bar and timer. Basically, each wave is 40 seconds long, and there are 5-second breaks in between waves to allow the player to upgrade their towers and prepare for the upcoming waves. Next up, I was starting to get bored of these basic enemies. They had an average walk speed, average health, average appearance. They were just average. To fix this, I created the second zombie, this Speedy right here. He runs almost twice as fast as the basic zombie, but doesn't have as much health. Now that there were multiple enemies in the game, I had a lot more fun, but still wanted to add more. I went back into Blender and modeled these guys, the tanky and the basic boss. The tanky is just a very slow zombie with a ton of health. I also gave him these chains, which I think look pretty nice. But the most fun enemy was the boss. Well, kind of. I had a ton of fun modeling him, and I gave him a sick design. But bringing this guy in was a huge pain. His model would float in the air, almost like he had low gravity. And even though all his settings were the exact same as the other zombies, he just wouldn't walk normally. In the end, the problem had nothing to do with Unity, but it was actually a Blender issue. I had to move the rig down into the origin of the Blender scene, and it centered it out much nicer in Unity. This boss wasn't just a pain for me, though. It will be a pain for all players. Because this guy walks faster than the tanky zombies, but has a ridiculous 200 health. I play-tested a ton, trying to find the perfect balance between fun and difficult, and in the end, I decided that it was best for this zombie to come out on wave 10 of the game, as it gave you enough time to prepare, but it could also easily slip past your defenses if you aren't locked in. Next thing I did was create an upgrade system, so the player would have a choice with each tower they placed. Do I upgrade this tower, or save for something else? Making these upgrades wasn't too difficult. I made this UI in Photoshop. This main panel shows the name of the upgrade, prices, and what it will do to your tower. And this side panel shows your tower's current stats. This button triggers a function where, if you have the required cash, your tower's stats will upgrade. For the Recruit, these are the upgrades I made. At level 1, the Recruit does 2 damage every 2 seconds with a range of 9. At level 2, he gets 11 range, and his fire speed goes down to 1.7 seconds. He also gets some gloves and shoes. At level 3, he deals 5 damage and 15 range, and gets a little backpack to support him. At level 4, he deals 9 damage and shoots every 1.55 seconds. He also gets these rings on his arms, and also gets these headphones. And finally, level 5, for a total of $7,425, the recruit deals 17 damage, shoots every 1.25 seconds, and has a range of 21. His whole body gets a greenish color, and he gets a mouthpiece on his headphones. Now, before you say anything, I know my modeling skills aren't the best, and some stuff looks a bit weird. But in the future, I'll most likely hire a modeler and animator to take care of that for me. But for now, the game's models will be a bit lower quality. And that's all for this video. In the next one, I'll be adding a ton more enemies and towers, so stay around for that. Here's a photo of some ideas I came up with for enemies, and I'll be turning those into a reality very soon. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end, and I hope you enjoyed this video.